Before the show starts, again, just like to say a big thank you to the sponsors: Air Canada Cargo, ATC Aviation, Bombelli, Cool Dolly and Cool Storage Solution, Etihad Cargo, and Sarco Airport Equipment. Thank you all so much. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, listeners, colleagues, here we are again, another session on the Pharma Digital event. I've got two great lads here as guests. Looking forward to getting into some detail with them. First guest is Michael Zahra, who's President and CEO for Drone Delivery Canada, a disruptive technology organization, which we'll get into later on, Michael. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciated. And we've got Tim Strauss, CEO of Amerijet. And Tim is sitting there in front of one of the best backdrops I've seen on these podcasts. It's making me feel very envious. So he's also part of the disruptive technology team.
Very good. Glad to be with you, Chris. Thank you so much. Good to see you again, Michael.
Yeah, no, it's a great pleasure. Now, gents, before we kick off, as part of the kickoff, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just ask you if you can just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, the organization that you're with, and how this pandemic affected you during this last 8 months or so. So if we want to start with you, Tim.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. So my background is air cargo. I've been in the air cargo environment for over 35 years and currently with Amerijet. And Amerijet's a all cargo carrier based at Miami Airport, serves the Caribbean as far as into Europe, across the United States, Latin America, and Central America. So moving all cargo goods. And so obviously this is an environment that's been challenging for us as we began the period. Nobody really knew what was going to happen. We were in the closed down, shut down stages. A lot of cases to begin with our own employee groups. And so very deeply concerned about that. And so probably number one issue for us has been the safety of our employees. We run an operational warehouse, so you are in close contact. You can wear masks and do all those things, but it's a challenge. So we've taken a number of safety efforts to alleviate that. And so we can talk about that if you care to.
Yeah.
But then as the COVID experience began to extend beyond the original 2-week supposed slowdown, now into 6 or 7 months, business began to want to drive. And so we've been able to get on the backside of that and expand a bit, add some employees, add flight crews and routes, and do some other things that are enabling us to be in a good position to help along the way as we come to the eventual vaccines, but some of the goods before that are precursors to be able to be in position for this. So look forward to discussing that as we go forward.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. Thank you very much indeed, Tim. And Michael?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So we are a Canadian company based just outside of Toronto. Been around for about 6 years, publicly traded. We are fully commercialized and went operational and generating revenue for the first time starting the beginning of this year. So for us, the pandemic has affected us in a variety of ways. I guess, internally, we have about half of our employees working from home, and a number of people who work in the field or work in the engineering lab have to come in. So we obviously have protocols in place to be able to ensure that we're doing the right things and keeping everybody safe. But also for us, the pandemic has created quite a few opportunities, and we'll get into it later, I'm sure, on use cases. But a lot of companies and indigenous communities and healthcare campuses are looking to minimize person-to-person contact, but keep their supply chain open. So that's been ideal for drones. So in fact, for us, it's raised the profile of the industry and the company very much so, I would say, what's going on.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Right, great. Now, so if I come back to you, Tim, so obviously you mentioned there about how a lot of your employees were affected. The general industry now is ever more aware of the importance of cargo, and the public as well, seeing the supply chain, continue and looking at the organizations and companies that have been dealing with it. There's never been such an interest level. And now with these 3 consecutive weeks of positive news about the vaccines, everybody else now is looking in. So as far as your team and your guys on the front line, how badly affected were you in the first wave?
We had significant impact, partly the fear factor, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
and then partly the reality that we had a number of cases at work, validated, tested, and all the rest of it. So going through all the protocols that you would think of to enable us to stay working and functional, we have everybody gets tested at least once every 2 weeks. For someone like myself who has a little more contact, I go every 10 days and tested. And obviously then the protocols that behind that in terms of needing to have 2 negative tests before you come back into the workplace again. Large expense to do that. We also fumigate and sanitize 100% of our facilities at least once a week, where everybody has to clear out. You have to have 4 hours of downtime. We spray all kinds of disinfectants throughout the facility, wipe everything down, and we just want to make sure it's a safe place for everyone to come to work just as much as we possibly can. So those have been significant changes, and you can imagine expense that goes with that. But we want our employees and our customers to feel good about coming into our facilities and working together.
Yeah, it's amazing. Everybody always used to just talk about safety and security. Now it's safety, security, and sanitization. It's going to be around for a long time, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just, I think you see it on the passenger aircraft with what they're doing in the passenger operations. And I think you see every other business in the supply chain needs to do this just to be able to say that they are doing the protocols that make everybody feel comfortable and want to be together.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And now with that fear factor and the points that Tim just raised there, Michael, and you said earlier, it's given opportunities now for your sector, the disruptive technology. Firstly, how do you feel about being labelled disruptive technology? Because I remember when I was starting out in some management roles, I remember a few bosses said to me, "You're a bit of a disruptive character," and I always thought that was bad. I think it's quite a good thing now. So, how do you feel by being labelled like in that particular group?
Maybe it's a little overused, the cliche, but I mean, if you look at what it means and you look at other examples in the tech space and what's happened, with Uber or Airbnb and how they've disrupted, their industries, I think it's an appropriate term. I mean, our intent is never to replace traditional transportation en masse, obviously, but the areas that we operate in are definitely going to change the industry.
Yep.
And in some cases for our customers, not only are we helping them reduce costs, being more efficient, doing things differently, but there's potential for incremental revenue income, incremental premium services, and these sort of things. So I think it's disrupting logistics, and it's also disrupting the business model.
Yeah, and like I said, it's from the old days, anything where you use the word disruptive was always seen as maybe bad or negative. Now, it is positive now because it makes everybody think. It gives them a little bit of a different perspective, and it puts pressure on them. But from the issues now, and something that I think, and Tim, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but in our industry, and especially somebody as old as myself, I'm so frustrated about the amount of paperwork that's still involved and the touch points, and it's this touch point issue that should be the catalyst now and the driver for change. Now, with Michael's technology, some of those issues and some of those opportunities, have you ever thought of using them with regards to that particular issue?
yeah, absolutely. I should say that I was with Air Canada for 3 years before coming to Amerijet, and actually worked alongside of Michael and Drone Delivery in developing some of their product and bringing them to the market in Canada. Air Canada actually represents Drone Delivery on the sales side, the
Yep.
commercial side of the business. And we saw enormous opportunities. There's a factory that's quite large. They use drones to move documents around. But it would be a mistake to think that the drones that we're talking about here are the toys. These are as large as individual helicopters that they're working with. So you're talking something that can move a skid worth of goods to in between companies or communities. So a little different approach. But I do think I agree with you 100%, Chris. The removal of documents, the removal of touch points, everything being digitized is one of the big pushes that's come from COVID in an industry that's been a little bit behind in getting that done, truthfully. Much of it on the regulatory side, meaning the government side, that still loves paper. where most of us, work off digital platforms, iPads, any kind of document removal is valuable to us. So this is just one more of those next level up opportunities to get bureaucratic items that aren't absolutely necessary out of the process.
Yeah, certainly a good need for some disruption there. I'd endorse that 100%.
Yeah,
Now,
I think we call that a shredder.
yeah. A Louisville Slugger is needed in some cases, I think. Michael, with regards to something that Tim just said there about the size of the drones, I think when most people see them, they see what they see on the news, or they see what they see in parks, or that estate agents are using with properties and wedding photographers. And then you look at the ones that can go up to maybe 20, 25 kilos. What's the capacity? What's the maximum size that you can lift?
Sure. So in our fleet today, there are 3, but our system is what we call airframe agnostic, meaning we can actually put our system on a manned fixed wing or manned rotary wing aircraft, or even somebody else's drone as they come out in the future. So there will be bigger and better as we go. But our smallest one is called the Sparrow. It's got a range of 30 kilometers and a payload capacity of about 4.5 kilograms, which is about 10 pounds. And then our largest, which Tim mentioned, looks like a helicopter. It's actually gasoline powered. Condor has a range of 200 kilometers and a payload capacity of 180 kilograms or 400 pounds. So even the smallest one is definitely beyond what you would see sort of in traditional photography and video or that sort of thing.
And what sort of heights can you get to? What altitude?
So, drones and helicopters and rotary wing aircraft don't really have the same efficiency of altitude that a traditional fixed wing passenger jet would. So the regulations are typically what is deciding how high we fly. So the smaller ones, for instance, like the Sparrow and the middle one between the Sparrow and the Condor called the Robin, the regulations typically, at least in Canada, it's probably similar internationally, limit us to flying at 400 feet above the ground.
Okay, oh, that's good. You must have had some fun with the naming, huh?
Yeah, they're all named after birds, and more to come. So
yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to think of a few that you don't want to be naming anyhow as you get bigger. Now, just coming now to obviously the vaccines, and thank God, and such great, good, positive news and applause and whistles and everything else for the scientists. They've done an incredible job. Now, the first Monday we had great news, and then there was the naysayers who were then saying about the challenges because of the temperature. Then we got Moderna after Pfizer, and then things got better, and now we've got Oxford and AstraZeneca with even better. So, and there's going to be more, obviously. So we're going to have a full menu of vaccines, hopefully. Now, once what we don't know about, and the details start to come out, that's when everybody can start, doing what they're good at, and that's what we're all waiting for. Now, as far as the preparation and task forces and organizational groups, you've got governments, carriers, airports, handling agents, regulators, integrators, representative bodies, charter brokers, LCCs, private aviation, you've got last mile providers. You've got a myriad of people that need to be involved, and they're all parts of various task forces. What involvement have you had in your respective organizations with these organized task forces? Because obviously the coming together and the collaboration is what's going to make everything successful.
Sure. As a U.S. based carrier, you can imagine there's a great deal of governmental involvement. So from the military, which is going to be the first group that begins to do distribution, they are looking at facilities and their ability to handle their goods. The cool chain side. So in our case, we have what's known as a CEIV certified handling process or protocol and facility. And that allows us to go to different temperature levels, which will be important by the product type. And we've been directly involved with that, and also looking to see what kind of aircraft we have as they might need to be called into service. And then because we serve the Caribbean, Latin America, region. Some of
Yep.
those are more remote locations. So what are your capabilities there? So just an assessment level all the way down, Chris, to just determine what can you do from the handling side to the operation side to the terrible paperwork side to all of those things. And then your ability to handle, like let's say if you're going to the Pfizer level where it's a 80 degrees, a minus 80 degree requirement, your ability to handle the 20-foot TEU containers like that go on shipping lines and you
Yep.
see on the back of trucks. Well, that's the unit you're going to move those in. So what is your ability to load your aircraft with those kind of containers, or do you have access to others who have the ability to handle those kind of cans or containers, ULDs, as we'd say in the industry? So all of those things are assessing your ability up and down the line. And I think you've probably heard the same numbers that we have, that maybe 8,000 or 9,000 aircraft routes will be involved by the time this is done. That just gets you to the airport. Then you've got distribution and trucking, the drone approach for remote locations, all the other things that are involved. So they're assessing us and our other partners in the supply chain. And so that's where we are now. And then I think we'll learn more as they decide what products they'll distribute first, or which is ready to go to market at what level of million or 10 million or 100 million vaccines might move on your system.
Yeah, exactly. And all of the equipment in preparation as well, because it's not just about the vaccines and the files. You've got everything else that needs to be there in advance. So I take it you're getting involved in that as well.
Exactly. We already have been involved. We've been moving things from Asia into the United States, needles, syringes, other equipment in support of the actual, I guess, delivery, final moment delivery of the vaccine itself. So those items are in place and ready to go. And you can imagine everything else that you might need to have along with that. That's we and other, our other folks in the industry are moving into the country. And I would assume if we're moving in our country, that other countries are doing very similar things as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And if like I was talking to some of my daughter's friends just over a week ago, and they were saying how pleased and everything is, and then they were saying, so how does it get everywhere? And they've got no idea about aviation. And then some of the questions they were asking, I was beginning to think I've got no idea as well, because I didn't think of some of the questions. Putting it very simply, what they were saying is, we see a jumbo jet or we see a big aircraft. I said, yeah, freighters. So they're saying, right, will they fly somewhere? And then once they deposit the load, then will smaller aircraft then disperse it and take it somewhere else? Will private aviation start to distribute, and trucks, etc.? And then obviously, Michael, I would imagine, if people were thinking, they'd be saying, and then drones of the capacity that you've got could then be taking it on that more than just the last mile, but to areas that might be more difficult to reach. And then the saying that, we're all safe when we're all safe is so important. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's right. I mean, I don't think it's unique to Canada, although, given Canada's size, maybe we have, more indigenous communities and more remote communities and coastal communities that are hard to access. And last mile tends to be very painful for anybody who's in logistics, and very inefficient and very expensive. And a lot of these communities suffer in terms of healthcare as a result of being remote. So I don't think those kind of communities are unique to Canada, but those are a perfect fit for drone delivery. So in fact, we have two projects underway with the smaller drone I mentioned, the Sparrow, where we have two indigenous communities a couple hours north of Toronto, and they are both specifically COVID-19 related projects. We are moving PPE. We will be moving, working with the federal government, actually moving test swabs to the island for testing, and then bring them back to the mainland to go out for analysis. So we're already working in the logistics around the pandemic. One thing that people might not realize is when there is a vaccine, testing doesn't stop. Testing is not a solution.
Correct.
Testing is to confirm that the solution is working. So even if there is a vaccine, there's still going to be a need for logistics around PPE, swabs, hand hygiene products, all the things that we're moving today, whether it's in the urban centers or into the remote areas. So I expect to see another branch of logistics around the vaccine. but definitely it doesn't mean the logistics around, testing the swabs and PPE and these sort of things is going to stop. You both see them happening.
Yeah. No, that's right, and that's good to know. And it's great the way the technology is speeding up, and also the way the options are delivering as well, which is I think it's such a positive period we're in now, even though it's such a terrible time, and God bless anybody that's lost anybody. It's a period where probably in this particular year, whether it's technology, e-commerce, all the other issues and influences, has probably been as much as we would normally get in 10 years. Now, the thing that I'm hoping as well, and I hope that it carries on, is the word care. So that people care more, people become people, there's a lot more collaboration. Are you finding the level of collaboration to be better ever than it was, Tim?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Chris. I think that people are realize that this is a problem that's bigger than anybody's company, country, continent. That they are taking it as, how do we do this for the broader good of humanity, and also how do we do it so for one another, just in your local community? How do we care for each other and make sure we have each other's back all the way through? So I think there's a general, I mean, if we are all living on Zoom calls or Teams calls or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I have a sport jacket and a nice shirt on and my sweatpants, right? We all live in this different world where you see people, their kids running in and out of the room as you're on a conference call, the cat climbs onto the screen or whatever it may be. I think it's good that it's humanizing business, that you realize all the commerce, all the other things happen in the reality of the fullness of our lives, instead of these little sectors or segments of our lives. And I think that's a valuable bit all in itself, and one that just, I think we're all deeply aware. I would assume you all know, just like I do, people, our chief of staff had COVID not long ago, thankfully on the other side of it now. But it's, these are real people with real lives, and they're our friends and our family and our compatriots around us. So I think it's if there's a good thing that's come from that, it's the living with your heart a little bit more than maybe in the past.
Yeah, and everybody's slowing down a little bit, and making more considered decisions and choices, and valuing what's important in life. So
Absolutely.
important. Yeah, I always knew you were a class act, Tim. Wearing pants underneath. That's a good one. See, where I'm from, we haven't got any. I've just got my socks on with this, so it's a tough one.
That's the one I don't want to hear about, Chris.
Yeah. No, exactly. But equally, and I know we're just having a little bit of fun now as well, but it is so important now for everybody to start sharing in the good news. And the quicker things can get back, the quicker things can start to slot back in again. And then the quicker any of our colleagues who've been displaced from the industry that they love will be able to get back in as well. And, and the sooner the better for all of them. Now, Michael, as well as like certain standards and regulatory criteria and everything, what type of additional awareness do people have to have when they see and one of these as you call it, what's it, the condor? A condor starts, coming over the horizon and it lands. What special arrangements have to be made there for that?
So obviously, every country, Canada included, we operate within a regulatory environment, and there are set rules. Although it's still somewhat, I would say, a nascent industry, and in many places, even in Canada, United States, and Europe, the drone regulations are still evolving. But I think, in some cases, people, like we mentioned earlier, are comfortable seeing drones, but it's typically the photography, the video, playing at the park, that sort of thing. You are starting to see news around the world. And I think some of it's because of the pandemic, because it's definitely, as I mentioned earlier, raised the profile of the industry overall, because there are so many use cases for drones. And then there are more use cases on top of that as a result of the pandemic. People are starting to see a lot more news around drones being used for logistics, or for spraying, or for public announcements, or for a variety of reasons. So it's still new, but I think people are getting used to it. I don't know that they'll see a condor given its size, dropping off, pizza or whatever in your backyard anytime soon. It's more likely going to be from a depot to a depot, or warehouse to warehouse, or airport to airport type environment. But definitely our smaller ones, which are significantly larger than a toy drone or something used for photo or video, people are starting to see them in their neighborhood. We've done projects where we are delivering defibrillators in a rural community, and we can get there faster than an ambulance can. So we could be potentially saving lives. So people are starting to see them in residential areas. The the applications are more B2B still today.
Yeah.
But you're getting people used to them and prepared for them coming in the news and videos that they're starting to see. So it's not far away, and I don't think it's going to be a big shock to people starting to see them coming to residential areas in the future.
Yeah, and I think people's outlooks are so much different now, and it's been enhanced, and the speed is really moving forward now, again, as a result of everything that's happened this year.
Yeah, and I mean, the most traction that drone logistics has gotten has really been in healthcare. So, people, may or may not like drones. For the most part, once they understand, that it's a healthcare application, and then they're quite comfortable. They know there's no privacy issues. It's, they know somebody's following the rules and the regulations and these sort of things. And if we're delivering, urgent medical need, or vaccines, or PPE, or testing swabs, and these sort of things, I think people will welcome seeing it being used.
Yeah, no, I agree, and long may it last and speed up. Now, Tim, something I wanted to ask you, and I know how focused you are with regards to standards. You mentioned CIV earlier. You've got such an extensive network. I mean, how many? I don't know if you know off the top of your head even the number of destinations that you actually fly to.
Well, we fly to 34, but we have representation in over 400. So we through partnerships and everything else, pretty much the whole world, really, which is not unusual in today's environment.
Yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, some of the destinations that you do go to, you've got extreme temperatures as well. I mean, Miami's not a bad temperature range in itself, but for people who don't understand, they know that the level of control on an aircraft is sufficient. They know that once it's in a warehouse, if it's in certain conditions, it's sufficient. But what people don't realize is how quickly an aircraft can heat up once the door is open and once the unloading process and the ramp process is in place. Now, can you just let us know, to what degree are you getting involved now with the preparation for vaccines with all of your handling agents?
Sure, across the board. So we're doing a double check with every one of our agents. We already move a lot of pharmaceutical goods. We fly in San Juan, which is a major pharmaceutical location as part of the United States. And so that's a pharmaceutical headquarters. We move goods out of there almost anywhere you can imagine. We were talking earlier as we began about not being sure how everything gets around the world from your daughter's friends and all that. I remember as a kid when the idea of fresh fruit during the middle of winter was a bit foreign. Now we don't think anything of it. Well, that all moves through aircraft and vessels of some kind or another. So there's a whole world of change that we've not even thought about how that supply chain made it happen. The same thing here. So this isn't new to us, the distribution of medical, pharmaceutical. But there are certain types of specialty containers we use. There's a couple of companies out there that have refrigerated containers, so you never have to open the door, so it stays within about a half a degree of its initial temperature setting all the way through to destination. Extremely important. And so that we have the handling proper on the far end, the receiving or the origin end is crucial for the industry, and it has been for some time. This isn't. I think the minus 80 degree, that one's on the extreme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it can be done. It can be done, and we will do it. So it's and then when you talk about once you get out of our facility, I'm interested to learn more about in radioisotopes, which are important in the medical arena. They lose half their life every hour. So how do you get those to market more quickly? Whether that's specialty vehicles once they hit the ground, the drones if that's applicable. All of those kind of elements have to be put into play if there's any kind of deterioration in the life or efficacy of the pharmaceutical good themselves. So that's all part of the supply chain that we're working on now.
Yeah,
at
no, no. Yeah, exactly. And the same thing, Michael, obviously with the with the last mile, the importance of last mile, and also getting to certain areas. It's a great opportunity for what you're doing to be replicated in other regions.
Yeah, I mean, we can do temperature control, whether it's passive or active. And as Tim mentioned, sometimes it comes down to a combination of the capabilities of the aircraft, or in our case, the drone, plus the container. I mean, our trips are, not typically very long. We're not flying from,
Yep.
Toronto to Miami, for instance, or Toronto to London. But I mean, we might be flying for half an hour or so, and it could be in hot temperature, it could be in the cold temperature environments. And we can fly, night, day, rain, snow, summer, winter. It's not a problem for us. So we have done the movement of temperature controlled cargo in the past. So we know we can do it. We can actually log and transmit in real time what the temperature of the cargo is. We keep data logs and these sort of things. So we definitely have the ability to do it. And hopefully we'll be doing it as the Canadian federal government is currently issuing an RFI to work with a variety of partners, including the military, and we're certainly in those discussions. So definitely it's something that's in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, it's great. And airports, I've always believed that airports should and could take a more leading role for their own ecosystem, and even to a point of strategy and tactical alignment with all of the tenants and anybody that does business on an airport. Are you finding that the airports are becoming more involved and trying to do things collectively and in collaboration than ever before, Tim?
Yeah, there's a number of initiatives out there right now, Chris, that for airports to work collaborate, all the different stakeholders at the airport for the good of the community and the good of the business world itself. So yeah, there are definitely moves on many fronts to do that and to make it, as you said, an ecosystem that delivers a better product. And most of it has to do with the information sharing, because the logistics is there. It's the information sharing that has been a little bit bifurcated, or more so than that. And I think that's we like to say all the time, we really have two products. We have transportation and information. Yep. And for most people in today's environment, information is as important as the transportation.
100%. It's the new gold and the new oil. The value is incredible if it's done correctly and shared correctly. It's amazing. And all that holding back is a crazy thing. The more open up, the more confident, the better everybody will be.
Absolutely.
Michael, sorry, thanks, Tim. Michael, can I ask you something now? If you were able to look into the future, because what you said there earlier about people are going to become more aware and they're going to accept more seeing drones flying around. Now, I remember seeing things like that in science fiction films, and you think, oh my God, when's this going to ever? It's just happened. It's happened so quickly, and it's come up on everybody. And most people aren't aware of the drone capability. Now, if you were able to look into the future, not too far into the future, and with your disruptive technology head and your eyes and your thought process, what do you think is going to be the next big, the big drive or the big initiative that people are going to experience now as we move forward?
Sure. So typically, and it's true in our case, the technology is ahead of the regulation. So we can do, we can do a lot more than what we're allowed to do, I would say. So I think, a few things. So first of all, people are doing what they're allowed to do within the regulation. So for us, the applications tend to be remote, rural, suburban to a certain extent, and mostly B2B applications. There's nobody really, going to your house for any kind of delivery, en masse on a commercial project, because the regulations are just not there yet. So I think we will see the regulations evolve. I think you'll see a migration into more high density urban areas, including residential deliveries beyond just B2B. So that will be one thing as the regulations evolve. Sticking to cargo before I talk about passengers in drones potentially in the future. I think in North America, you typically have large aircraft servicing a small subset of the available airports, and I think that's going to branch out to smaller aircraft, including drones, servicing all of the smaller airports as well as non-airport areas, because we can create our own quote unquote airport by installing a depot for drones. So I think we'll see that as well. And then if you move out a few years, and this may take a little bit for people to accept, but you'll see unmanned flying taxis. I mean, there's a number of companies that are doing it today in pilot phase, of course, but I think you're going to see that in the future. So there's quite a bit of disruption still to come, and quite a roadmap. But the regulations, I think, are moving at the appropriate pace, but they'll need to relax a little bit based on hard data and hours of flying and experience. The regulator will move forward.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people saying to me about the vaccines, and which one would you choose, etc., or would you have it straight away? If I could get it tonight, I'd go and have it, and I wouldn't care whether they put it in my arm anywhere else or made me swallow it. I would take it straight away. And question I've got for you now: if you were asked to be the first person to go on one of your own unmanned drones, would you jump on it?
Yeah, I mean well, I wouldn't fit in any of them except the Condor, but yeah, I mean, I would. I mean, we've got quite a few hours on the Condor right now. I would feel comfortable flying in it. I mean, I wouldn't be flying it; it'd be unmanned, of course, but I wouldn't hesitate to fly in it, and I think we will see that in the future.
Yeah.
The systems and the capabilities are there to do it today. Regulations don't allow it. You may see instances, I'm not promising anything, but you may see instances where you see people flying in drones outside of the regulations, which could be in military airspace. So if the military is overseas, for instance, and it's a military operation, they tend to dictate the rules of the airspace themselves. They don't fall under traditional Transport Canada or FAA or EASA. In Europe, they create their own airspace rules. So, we could be bringing supplies to the front line, and we could be bringing an injured soldier back from the front line to base in a Condor tomorrow. And I think it would be a very safe thing to do, and in some cases, saving lives.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing, and this disruptive technology. There's also a disruptive mindset for somebody to think at this moment in time. You get onto a tube, and there's somebody sitting at the front who's flying you from one point to another. Well, what's the difference between getting onto something and somebody sitting in a room who's able to do it remotely?
Well, most of that flight is probably on autopilot anyway, and I've seen demonstrations of taking off and landing without a pilot as well. And I don't think we're going to. I mean, our intention is never to replace pilots, but moving passengers in the future, I think there will be some applications. If you go to some countries like Brazil and Sao Paulo, almost every building, because of traffic and security, has a heliport on the roof.
Yeah.
So those could easily be replaced as a first step of moving people back and forth between buildings and to the airport, which they're doing today with helicopters. That'd be an easy first step.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it, what mankind can do when they're pushed, which is what's been proven, with this vaccine. It's amazing. Now, Tim, over to you. Now, what would you like to see? And obviously, e-commerce now. Everybody of any age group now, people who are so anti, now they're loving it. Everybody's getting used to it. So obviously, the e-commerce side, you've seen the effects of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. People order, like you say, almost everything via e-commerce, and it's amazing the odds and ends that you would have never thought of ordering that way, and now you just do it without a single moment's hesitation. So it continues to be the driver. It's the new element in the industry that I think will continue to move us, and I think it's for our purposes. We serve a lot of island nations or island locations in the Caribbean. Hooking up with something like drone delivery, we can fly into the major airport and you've got 20 islands around it within 100 kilometers. How do you get those goods quickly over to the next step? And if Michael's able to do what he believes he can in bringing the cost down to a rational number, it won't be an expensive thing to do over time. I think those are some amazing forward-looking opportunities.
Yeah.
For both sides, the traditional transportation and then the non-traditional at the final mile delivery points in some of these locations. And there's, hundreds of millions of people who live in remote locations, what we consider remote in the Western world, I guess you'd say now. And so I think those are phenomenal opportunities that just continue to expand outward. Um, it's an interesting time in the industry. I wish I was 20 years younger to enjoy another 20 years of it, because like you started off, was the industry we love and we do. And you know, the jet fumes get in your bloodstream, and I guess so does the IT side of it now, is kind of equally juicing it.
Yeah, no, but you're right. I said to my wife today, I said, my God, I was just reading something. I said, my God, I wish I could go back now 20, 30 years and just be pushing ahead with stuff. It's such an interesting time and such a time of opportunity. It's incredible.
Yes.
Now, the last thing I would ask both of you, magic wand, what would be the most influential and important thing that collaboratively the whole community could do in this next 3 to 6 months? What would you like to see?
Specific to the pandemic or the vaccine, or
In general, obviously, you've got your disruptive head on anyhow, Michael. So it could be anything, but it makes a lot more sense for it to be, the challenges that are facing us now in the next 6 months. What do you think would make a huge impact if we did things in a certain way or differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you both mentioned earlier, the solution to the pandemic is going to be one where collaboration is required. And I mentioned earlier that the Canadian government is looking for partners, and it's not going to be one company that's going to be able to do all of it for sure. And it's not something that maybe companies have collaborated on. I mean, to use the term frenemies, it might be a combination of companies who have to get together. So, I think that's going to be something that we all look forward to, that we can actually all get together for the greater good, because that's not always the case, that we do things as persons or as companies for their greater good. So I think, seeing that over the next few months to help solve the issues that we're facing related to the pandemic would be something I'd like to see. So, the government, the military, a variety of companies, whether it's logistics ground-based, logistics air-based, it's warehousing, it's picking and packing, it's the pharmaceutical manufacturers. It's really going to take, I don't want to call it a miracle because I think it will happen, but it's really going to take a different mindset to get everybody to collaborate the way they've never collaborated before, I think.
Yeah. And it'll be great to look back on 2020 and have such a learning experience, because I think once people dip their toes in to collaboration and being part of a bigger picture and team, they're going to start to enjoy it.
Yeah, and hopefully we learn something from this as well, so that we don't have another pandemic, because we know this is not the first one that we've had globally.
Yeah, exactly. And yourself, Tim?
I think it's a couple of things. I think the collaboration that you all are talking about, and I think equally much is, I'd really like to see remove the market impact for a while and just say, let's get the drugs to the people who need it at the cost at a level that makes sense, with great governmental interaction and helping one another, and just come out of it arm in arm, and then we can go back to the normal commercial world. But this is too important to let the commercial side overwhelm it. And I'm hoping we don't. What I've seen from the different governments around the world, it seems very collaborative on the financial side as well. So I think that's only good news. And the sooner we can start, the sooner we can get on the other side of this. So I'm very impressed. I can't tell you how impressed I am with the science and the biology involved with what's made this happen. So, God bless the pharmaceutical companies and all the people who are working on this.
Yep. No, it's incredible. And likewise, gents, thank you so much for your time and what you just said there. From freezer to arm, and then arm to arm, and then hopefully we'll keep arm in arm afterwards, and it'll be a far better place because of everything that people have learned this year. Continue to be disruptors, gents. It's great the way you've supported, the different outlooks there, Tim and Michael. Good luck with everything. And I can't wait to see some of the things that are going to be possible over the next few years. It's going to be an incredible time. Thank you so much. And, thoughts with all of your frontline employees and anybody that's, been unfortunate enough to experience some bad times. Hopefully it'll get better in the future. So thank you so much, lads.
Yeah, all the best. Cheers.
Appreciate it.